Hey everybody, it's Adarek again, and welcome to another video of Disney Hero Battle Mode. And today we're going over our boys at Control. Last week we did support, and now Control. Control is extremely important, even more important than support in many cases. We're seeing a lot of teams building with double Control, and that's because they put out a lot of damage and they do exactly what they're named, and that's control the other team. They're going to freeze them, they're going to stun them, they're going to slow them, they're going to do everything you can think of as far as crowd control goes, and they're going to put out a substantial amount of damage. Now, the game currently only has 4 support, so if you stick around through this video, I'll talk about all 4 of them, what their skills are, and at the very end, we'll go over who I think is my top 3. So, let's just jump right in and take a look at who we got. So if we'll head over to Heroes and scroll down, I do have all the current control unlocked. And right now, we're looking at Wally, Frozone, Finnick, and Dalma. Now, I'm pretty sure there are no more. Okay, I was correct. There was only 4. All right, these 4 are significant in their abilities. They all have something a little different. Maybe Wally and Frozone are kind of similar, but they all bring something new to the table. So let's look and let's start with Wally and go over some of his skills. Wally's first skill is Extinguish. Now this is a normal damage skill. He flies through the enemies with the fire extinguisher. He does damage over 3 seconds, and he has a chance to freeze everyone for 3 seconds. So that's a lot. That's a lot of freezing. He can freeze the whole team and shut them down and do damage in that process. So he's got like a damage over time and a 3-second freeze. Really cool. His next skill, Solar Power. He uses his solar power to grant allies extra energy and blinds enemies for 3 seconds. That's huge, because the extra energy is going to help you get to your ultimate faster, which is going to make your heavy damage dealers get off their ults quicker. And he blinds them, so now they can't hit you. Compactor, Wally creates a garbage box and pushes it at the closest enemy, knocking them back. So it's a knockback, but it's more of a single target knockback. And we see that a lot with control characters, or, and even some of our damage and tanks. Knockback is popular because since our AI automatically attacks the front row of the opposing team, knocking back people like tanks and stuff help you get to that damage in the back. So that's a nice little ability on top of that. So far he's got some good crowd control. He's got a freeze, he's got a blind, and he's got a knockback. Next up is Energy in a Cup. Wally grants allies 120 energy at the start of the wave. So again, more energy gives them energy to boost them up and get them closer to getting their ults faster. So that's really nice, especially right out the gate, because you get that initial boost, so you already have a 1-up on your opponent. All right, next up, we have Frozone. Frozone's one of the classic guys. He's one of the first you'll probably get. And let's look at his skills. Now, Stay Frosty, Frozone throws ice at foes, freezing them for 4 seconds. So again, just like Wally, he has a chance to freeze a whole bunch of people, but this time it's for 4 seconds. Cold Front, fantastic damage, shoots an icy wave at the closest enemy, dealing damage, just dealing a straight amount of damage. So that's just a straight up damage dealing. Again, fantastic damage. This works really well with anybody who has Scare. I'll say it again. I say it in all my videos. Someone like Sully or having a mic. These are the guys you want to put in because they're going to get that crit every time someone is scared. So he's a great guy to have in that group. Arctic Chill. Blast the closest enemy, freezing them for 8 seconds. So now, not only do we have a 4-second freeze on the whole team, but now we have an individual 8-second freeze on the closest enemy. So that's a long time to hold someone out. And the closest enemy likely will be a tank, so that takes a target like a frontline tank right out of the game. It also helps when you're fighting against anybody like Jesse, who can jump into the back of the group. If you're fighting against a team that has Jesse, take Frozone, because since it deals the freeze to the closest enemy, if Jesse comes all the way to the back and he throws this freeze, you're going to take Jesse out of the fight for 8 seconds, and she's squishy enough that your team could kill her. So really good against those backline jumpers. And last, Frostbite, one of his strongest. Enemies that Frozone freezes take additional damage every second they are frozen. So it's a DOT. So it's very similar to damage over time that you see in some of these other heroes, like Wally had one. But this one's awesome because he has a lot of freeze capability out there. He's got the single target freeze and the group freeze. And anybody who's frozen by him is going to take damage over time. And again, it's fantastic damage. So each of those ticks will crit if he's on a team with Scare. All right, number 3, Finnick. Finnick is a normal damage. He's got a couple normal damage skills here, and one is remote controller. Finnick controls his trusty van remotely, causing it to drive through enemies, dealing damage and knocking them back. And if you've played against him, you've seen this. The big van comes flying through and pushes the whole team back. So a really nice knockback, really good for keeping people out of the fight. It comes at almost the perfect time when I fight against them, where it causes me just when I'm about to beat the team to get knocked back and lose. So really nice. Pummel Pop. Now this is a fantastic damage, so here's a little split for you. Finnick flings Jumbo Pop goo at the nearest enemy, doing damage to all nearby enemies. To them and all nearby. So it's a nice little AoE damage. It's nothing crazy. I don't have it very high. It's at level 25 for me, but it still does a decent amount of damage. Again, it's fantastic. So regardless if he's on a scare team or not, you know, he has a chance to crit it, but it does some decent damage. Next, Jumbo Slam, also normal damage. Finnick smashes his Jumbo Pop, sending out a shockwave that does damage to enemies in front of him. So that's a much bigger amount of damage. If you see here, even at level 15, it does almost 2,500, and it does a shockwave to anybody in front of him. So that's nice because it's almost like a cone attack. Anybody that's sitting up front, especially tanks, you're going to get some extra damage there. And last, Sticky Situation. Finny gets his Jumbo Pop goo everywhere, causing his basic attacks, Pummel Pop and Jumbo Slam, to also slow. Slowed enemies have their movement speed reduced by 30% and their attack speed reduced by another 30% for 10 seconds. So that's awesome. So his skills now are going to slow the targets, not only on movement, but on attack speed. And with the fact that he has his van that pushes the whole team back, if he gets this attack off before the van comes, it's going to take those tanks longer to get to the front line again because their movement speed is slowed. So it's a really nice combination to his overall skill set. All right, and lastly, let's look at Tia. Tia has Bitter Storm, a fantastic damage skill. Tia conjures a storm that deals damage to all enemies and silences them for 6 seconds. That is awesome. So you have an AoE damage ability, and then you have a 6-second silence to everyone. Huge. Takes almost the whole team out, and 6 seconds is like eternity in these fights. Next is Mystic Charm. Dalma charms the furthest enemy for 7 seconds. While charmed, the target gains 41 skill power. So, just like Nick and like Woody who bring a charm, Tia brings it, but she brings it from the control side. I said this in my past video. Charm is really important, and I'll talk about it more when we get to the final video where we talk about building groups. Charm is really nice to have, and now you get with someone like Tia, you have another way to get a charm on your team. So if you want the damage dealer charm, you can go with someone like Nick. If you want the support guy who has charm, you can go with someone like Woody. And if you want the control side, you can go with Tia. And the charm on top of the silence, this makes her pretty viable. Next up is Tidal Rush. Tia launches a wave that damages and knocks back enemies. The wave does at least a blank amount of damage. The damage increases as the wave travels up to a max of damage. So now she has a tidal wave. And with a knockback on your team, or any way to knock back, all of a sudden you have even more damage. So if you push the team back and she sends her tidal wave out, that damage is going to scale the longer the wave goes before it reaches them, so you're going to reach max damage. So a very, very nice skill. And lastly, Mystic Cursed. Bitter Storm and Tidal Rush now curse enemies for 6 seconds. So 2 of her skills now add a curse. Cursed enemies can't be healed. So that's amazing. So now you have 2 extra skills that add another element. You have the silence, you have the charm, and now both your skills combined with Mystic Curse allows a curse to go off to those heroes that are hit by it, which means they can't be healed. So you want to talk about a dangerous hero to have on your team? Here she is right here. So those are our 4 controls. All are pretty impressive in their own way, but there can only be one number 1. So let's start with my top 3. So at number 3, I'm going to throw this out there and give it to Frozone. Frozone, I think, is a solid number 3. I don't want to take away from Finnick because a lot of people like him and use him, but I think Frozone is probably the best spot for 3. But it could be argued that Finnick could be 3 also. This is a great guy to add to your group if you're running a heavy scare team. If you do what I do and you like a Sully and Mike combo, this is a nice one to have. I know Wally does well, and I've used Wally in that group, but really you should have Frozone in there. All his skills are fantastic damage, so you get that crit because you have Mike and you have Sully doing scare. And if you pick up someone like Zerg, now you have 3 scare. Everything's going to crit on him, and he's going to bring you just as much freeze and crowd control. A little different than the way Wally works, but this is the guy to have on a scare team. So he's easily my number 3. Now, for my number 2, I'm throwing in Wally. Wally is amazing. Not quite as good as my number 1, but definitely awesome. Wally, like I said, with his skills, he's got an AoE freeze. Let's just jump through here. He's got the freeze that freezes a whole group, does damage. He's got his solar power, which gives you energy and blinds. And the energy is key here. And that's what puts him over Frozone, because he has 2 skills that give them energy. And that extra energy means ultimates across the board, which nothing is more valuable than having your ult quicker than your team, because one ult could kill them. And if they haven't gotten theirs off, too late. On top of that, he's got a decent amount of damage, and he has a knockback. I mean, this guy overall is just an amazing, amazing control. Some may even argue that he is the best control in the game, but unfortunately, now leading to my ultimate number 1, Tia is hands down, as far as I'm concerned, the best control in the game. How do you answer a character who comes in, who can do a silence to the whole team? She can charm someone, which is invaluable at this point, especially when there's a limited amount of charms on the map. And on top of all that, she has a curse. This chick is amazing. She must be on your team if you have her. And I mean, level her up, skill her up, use her. I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed. It's a shame because at the end of July, they took her off of the daily check-ins, or the daily sign-ins. If you signed in through the month of July, and I think even the month before, you got hero chipped towards her. I was able to get her to number 2 before it ended, and I think I'm halfway. If we check over here real quick, yeah, I'm halfway through. You can, however, recently today, at recording of this, which is, I think we're on August 4th, she recently got added to Coliseum chips. So if you got Coliseum tokens, I mean, you can now use them to level her up, which definitely makes her easier to get, because before it was only gold and VIP or gold and diamond crates, and a lot of people aren't going to waste the money to that. If you're like me, I don't spend a ton on this game, if any, so I really try to find ways that I can get to someone just by playing. But T is the way to go. Get her on your team. If you don't have her, try to get her, start playing with her, build up her skill set, build up her levels. Even at level 2 right now at 60, 2-star level 60, she's still awesome. This is the girl to have. So there you go, guys. That's my breakdown of the control in the game. Those are my top 3. Hey, listen, something new that's been happening. I am starting to stream Disney Heroes. I know a lot of you like these videos, and thank you so much for the support. I hope it's helping you. Our next video will talk about damage. We're probably going to break it up into 2 groups, and then I'll talk about team building. But if you want some live feeds of me, right now I'm streaming anywhere from Monday through Friday, always around 1 to 3. If you check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/angryaddo, you can see my schedule there. I do rotate it, but it's for 2 hours. It's a great way for you to come out, ask some questions, watch what I'm doing. You can see my daily routine. I'll help you in any way I can, and I'm not even averse to you throwing me some tips that you might have found out. So come check me out there. Don't forget to click follow at the bottom, and if you really want to follow me, hit me up on Twitter at AngryAddo and watch for all my tweets of when I run, like, you know, streams that might not be on schedule or any other tidbits I can give you. So I hope that's helping you. I hope all my videos are useful. Thanks again for all the support. Good luck out there. I'll see you next week.